Hey guys, welcome back to Future Obsession. I'm here with Meghan Chayka, the CEO and co-founder of Stathletes. Stathletes is a company that is changing hockey through advanced analytics. I'm really excited for this conversation. We're going to be talking about entrepreneurship, tech, sports, all the things I love, and I hope you guys do too. I'm so excited to be here with Meghan today. She is a powerhouse in tech and sports, so thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
We were just chatting as we were coming into the studio about your recognition last night at Brock University. Congratulations. How was that?
It was awesome. It was their 60th anniversary, so they had 60 grads in 60 years. So pretty
That's so
special.
cool.
Yeah, it was really exciting.
I know.
And you're a Brock grad too. So
yes,
yeah.
Brock alumni. I graduated
maybe
from
70 and 70 years.
in the next 10 years. Hey, Brock, hit us up. We'll be back there together.
Totally.
That's so nice. Yeah, I studied sport management there. So for all my viewers, I have also worked in professional sports and it's been a huge part of my life. That's why I'm so excited to talk to Meghan here because she has the perfect job, in my opinion, of the coolest stuff ever, tech and integration with sports. So can you give my audience a little bit of background on what you do, what Stathletes does, and
Sure.
about your role?
And so Stathletes, originally we started to look at like performance data about 18 years ago and realized that there was a huge gap, especially in like continuous flow sports. So any sports, not like baseball that has a stop and start, but that keep playing. So hockey is tricky because players cycle on the ice. They come on and off. They wear white jerseys on white ice. There's boards. They're indoors. So there's so many issues with like tracking data. So we started building software to figure out better ways to automate, track, understand performance in hockey, and then essentially translate that complex data into actionable insights. So initially it was like teams, and then went to like the league side so we could do every game every night. And now we do, digital media, sports books, anywhere where you touch and feel sports data, we play in.
Incredible. So did you grow up playing sports?
I did. I played almost everything but hockey, which is kind of the funny part of it. But I think I understood analytics in sports because I was a baseball pitcher. I played basketball. So when the Moneyball revolution kind of caught wind, I really understood like what they were doing in other sports and where there was applications in, these sports that were largely, difficult to do. It's not even that they were underserved. It's just you needed so much capital and time and focus to be able to actually action it. So I thought it was an advantage to come from the outside. And I think in tech, sometimes that is, right? You don't really know your space, but you learn it quickly. And you also see the gaps a lot more quick that people who are so used to being in that world.
So who are your clients right now?
Leagues, teams, players, media, sports books, any sort of digital entities that want to produce data. So we like to think of ourselves as a data as a service company. We're a little sassy, software as a service, but essentially we want to get data out into the world. So it's kind of a nice business model because, you generate large data sets, you clean them, you make sure they're accurate, and then you prepare them for different clients. And then the same clients can, consume the data, but they use it in different manners.
What kind of sparked the idea to start all of this?
That's a good question. I mean, I was always very involved in sports and I wanted to start a company. So when I was actually at Brock, my first business pitch was for a baby bottle company. I wanted to do healthy baby bottles. So I did like the Shark Tank, Dragon's Den style pitches. And I got to the regionals. So I won a couple pitches, got a little bit of money. Yeah, I was like, I'm going to have a baby company far before I had kids too. So I don't know what I was thinking. But I realized there was a lot of chemicals in the market and thought, mothers would be inclined to spend a bit extra. I didn't really want to be a product company. So it kind of fell on its face, but I learned a lot from that in terms of understanding how to pitch your business, what VCs are looking for, structuring business. My background is business and finance too. So I had a good understanding of how to put together a business plan, a business pitch. But essentially that was like the genesis of like my entrepreneurship journey. And then dovetailed that in, my brother hurt his back playing hockey, was training with some NHL players and realized that there wasn't a lot of data in the space. So it really came from my brother's idea. And then Neil Lane, Brad Nada, a whole group of people got together and figured out how to make it into a more scalable tech business. But
so you would say you've always had the entrepreneurial spirit?
Correct. Yeah, always had that bug. Even as a child, like we would pick raspberries and, go to like different subdivisions and sell them. So always had that spirit of, how to like translate something that maybe isn't valuable to someone, but move it into a market where they'll pay for it.
Okay, I'm so interested on how you had to go to all these pitch competitions. What are some advice on landing a pitch or just being like really confident about your idea?
Absolutely practice.
Yeah.
So pitching this, I called it Pinky Winks actually, which is like kind of not the best name, but it was very feminine, very babyish. You do things when you don't need to do them and you don't need to be successful, because that feedback and that ability to take failure, I think, builds that muscle to then when you need it and when there are high stakes, you understand the mistakes you made, you understand how to be a lot better, and you play to your own strengths. So even just the ability to pitch to a wide variety of people and business men and women, I understood how to deal in rooms better, how to structure things that were more emotional. As you know, with whether it's podcasting or on social media, everything's about storytelling.
Storytelling is
Storytelling.
key.
So formulating my story, constantly refining it for the market, for the people, for the room I walk into, that takes time. Because I feel like a lot of students think, you just start and then they have to be absolutely perfect.
Or like you're supposed to just know right from the start, right?
Totally. And I think it's just incremental gains. Like every day, every pitch, you get a little bit better. And that's how you tweak it to, eventual success or big success if you keep moving up the food chain.
What are some tips if you're nervous going into a pitch or just like nervous going into a meeting or things like that? For me, I like listening to music. I always have the same playlist, like in my Uber ride onto the podcast or in my Uber ride onto a big meeting. I have the same songs that get me into the right mind space. Is there something you do or that you've done in the past?
I do the Jurassic Park theme song, like things that are soothing. Yeah, I know. Very, very nerdy.
You listen to it?
I do. Yeah.
And you just vibe to it?
I do. Just prepare myself. And I think my calm, even on, whether it's national TV or a lot of viewers, are people have very low attention spans. So unless you're doing something incredibly positive or incredibly negative, no one really cares.
That's a good way of thinking.
Right? No one cares. They won't even remember. So just be yourself. Have fun. Be authentic. Like people connect to people. Mm-hmm. They don't connect to perfection. So dialing that back in your head of like even mistakes sometimes are more valuable than things that are absolutely perfect.
Okay. What are some mistakes you've made that you've learned from? It could be anything. Doesn't even have to be.
I make mistakes all the time. I think people always ask me about failure. And I think if I don't fail that day, I'm not trying or I'm not pushing.
Right.
So it's just constantly pitching, iterating, trying to hire certain people. I think the number one value of leaders in tech is recruitment. Right? So recruiting people, having them believe in you and your vision and in your ability to execute when they're putting, their family, their career on the line. I think you have to have a good balance of working in that element to be successful. So yeah, for me, you don't always get the best hire. Sometimes they pass up and will go to bigger companies or different opportunities. You don't always get the client you want or the size of deal you want or the structure you want, but it's process. And I think the journey is where the secret sauce comes in. It's not really the end result. And I'm not driven really by the outcome. I just want to be the best version and the happiest version of myself in the process.
Oh, I love to hear that. You're so positive.
Try to be.
All right. So we all know tech and sports are two very male-dominated industries. Having me worked both in tech and sports, I've noticed that right away since day one. What were some challenges you thought you faced, or maybe some of the vibes that you realized right from the beginning? And how did you kind of grow from that?
There's challenging areas always. And I think especially for me, whether it's students or other women, you want to use what you've been given to your advantage, meaning, if you're really good at marketing or if you're really good at math. I think sometimes really talented people try to be really well-rounded and don't try to brag. And I think it's the opposite. You should drive into what you're really good at, because being, really focused and dynamic and providing a lot of value in one area will essentially make you someone that everyone wants or everyone wants to work with from that perspective. So I think being honest with yourself about what you're good at and what you're passionate about and how you can basically light that on fire, I think is really key. And when you get executives who want performance, I don't really think that they care that you're a woman. Of course, they don't care that you're a woman, but I don't even think that comes into the conversation. I think there's a lot of politics, both in sports and tech and business in general. And so learning how to be mindful of that. And when you talk about mistakes I made, probably just being like too bullheadish. I always just thought, okay, the best idea should win, or, why wouldn't we do this? And being a little bit stubborn, where I realized that sometimes decisions were not necessarily even political. They were just capital, resources, and like, are we able to execute as a larger group? I worked at a Fortune 500 company. I worked in finance. I worked for the public sector, both in internships and in, shorter full-time roles. So I had a well-rounded background in industry before I, fully got into entrepreneurship too. And I think that's kind of why I appreciate entrepreneurship, because I know how slow things can move in industry. So I think it's just being confident in your abilities, and also knowing that no is not yet. If you don't get that job, if something happens, it doesn't mean that it's not going to happen for you. It just means that the timing, or maybe even the resources, were at the wrong way for that to occur.
Yeah, true. Sometimes going into a room being the only woman, or maybe talking on a panel and being the only woman, how does that feel? Do you feel empowered by that? Is it like a motivation, a little chip on the shoulder to be like, I got this?
I don't know. I don't think so. Sometimes I flip it and I'm like, why are we here? Like, how did we get here where I am the only woman? Because I feel like the tokenism can be really destructive. You see like a lot of women in previous generations know that there's only one woman that's really on a board, or one woman in a room, and they want to be that woman. So they typically want to hold other women out, whether that's like subconscious or just something that occurred. And I definitely look up to the women that are one step ahead of me, or two or three, that are CEOs or are running large companies, that pull me in and really mentor me and care. Because I think historically there maybe wasn't as much of a support system for women. So I typically get a little worried. And I take that as motivation to get more women in the room, not to say like, yay, I've done something.
What's a way companies do you think can have more females? Is it just recruiting, or having more events sort of things?
Yeah, I think it starts at the grassroots. There's some self-selection into certain industries. So maybe making your industry a bit more welcome, or your company more welcome for women. And it's a numbers issue too. If you only have a few women, you tend to get that lone wolf style that wants to be on their own, that wants to be by themselves. So like recruiting with culture, where there's not some sort of like idea of a quota, where it's like, there's a meritocracy, and you can allow people to be creative and be themselves. For me too, I love fashion, and, growing up, that's something that mattered to me. So to go into business, which is very like, you should wear this outfit, do not draw attention, this is how you should be. I respect that to a certain extent, but then there's another extent where I think, you should show your personality, and that can be a part of your world. So that trade-off that I get a lot of hate for on social media.
Yeah, I feel you on that.
I still do, because it's who I am, and I want to show other women that they can be like that too and still be successful in business. It doesn't detract from that. And I don't walk into boardrooms wearing, cocktail dresses, but if it's appropriate, I will wear the best dress I can.
Absolutely. No, I love that. I feel like too, when I first started going to tech events, I felt like I had to be within a certain mold. I'm like going shopping, being like, does it have to be this black blazer? Can I wear the bright green one I really want to wear? Or like the pearl earrings and the Chanel necklace? Like, will people not take me serious? But I feel like if you continue to provide value, it's fine. You know what I mean?
I agree. And I think it should be actually the flip side. I think it should show how unique and creative people can be. And I think part of creating a, social brand, a brand of yourself, is a storytelling of who you are. So if you love fashion, that's a great way to show it, that you're well dressed.
Love it. And you're also on social media. That's where we became friends, I'd like to say. You have a huge following online. How do you see branding on social media play a part to your job and career?
It's tough, because I think a lot of tech companies spend a ton of money on marketing, and breaking through in the modern world, you need just so much capital. Even you look at traditional media, the media spends on just a commercial that's on linear TV. It's a massive amount. So now that you can reach millions on TikTok, Instagram, one of my videos just got over 4 million views on TikTok. And I didn't even think of that as a medium for me, just because I feel like I'm on so much social that I want to streamline, but it's amazing, the reach.
What was the video? Was it about sports?
It was about my background and what I did at work. I know. And I was thinking, you think of people's perspectives on that it's going to be just like an outfit reveal, or here's my cat. And it's like, no, it was on what I do and that people really care.
No, you have so much cool insight and things to share. So that's why I'm so excited that you're here today, because this will be on social media, and hey, maybe another 4 million views.
You never know.
You never know. That's awesome. Do you use social media to your advantage, or are you planning to use it more for Stathletes and showcasing what your company does?
I think when you have a business that's more, not as much on the social media side, that it can be an advantage, but it also can be a distraction. So I try to be really mindful of where I put my time and energy and just not letting it bleed into like my entire life. And I know like it's challenging with influencers, right? Because you see something cool, you want to document it. And even with my kids, it's like, do I want them online? What do I want to show? But I also know it's a part of my life. So I've tried to be as open as possible without having that affect me in terms of like my mental health or like how I feel about myself. I mean, even on X, I just had a post go viral, and it was like, after the 300th comment, I was like, I will probably never open a comment chain ever again.
Yeah, I just don't watch.
Do not read them?
I don't read the comments.
No.
I'm like, I don't need negativity in my life.
Correct.
Right?
So I think just being really gated in how you approach social and understanding a lot of what people say is really not about you. It's about themselves.
That's a very smart point. Now, as a female entrepreneur, what are some tips that you could give to maybe students at Brock University, or just students in general, maybe who have a passion for entrepreneurship but don't really know where to start?
I think you just start, right? Okay. You write a business plan. That's why I said, like, I wrote my business plan on something completely unrelated. And especially if you can do it while you're in school, because there's so many good professors. Even now, I have a position at the University of Toronto. I'm a data scientist in residence. So I get to work with students.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I work with graduate students on different projects. And I see just how engaged not only faculty can be, but like how much resources there are through our really great schools, and same within the US. I mean, a lot of the business plan competitions I finally won for Stathletes were American.
Oh, yeah. Really?
Yeah. So we won one in Canada, and we went down to Louisville, Kentucky. And so we pitched it, and they were like, yeah, we only have football here, but we understand how that could, be applied. Right. And so we actually won there. So we lost one at our home university at Western. Yeah. And then we won the one in Louisville.
Oh, my goodness.
You never know. You just keep going. And so for students, it's like, if you're in school, get active right away, find the entrepreneurship groups, find the courses, the faculty that specializes in it, and just start doing it. Like, life is not about learning, it's about doing.
Where are some other places that people could find resources? Do you think maybe like YouTube, social media, other people?
Totally. Even ask ChatGPT.
Ask ChatGPT. We're gonna get into the AI conversation. Such a bad answer,
but it's true, right?
It's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
So go ahead.
Talk about ChatGPT. How are you using ChatGPT?
I mean, LLMs for sure aren't something necessarily new, but just the way that ChatGPT responds now is with enough sophistication that it makes sense in your daily life. So whether that's understanding your own prompts or what you want out of that, or how that's part of the process, I say to my staff sometimes, it's like there are 10 steps in some of our projects, and I'm fine if you use it at step 2 or 3, but like we have to be able to humanize it as well, right? Everything that you do is tailored towards your audience, who you are, and people generally like it in a tone that makes sense. So I can tell who uses ChatGPT more, whether that's in emails or follow-ups or whatever. I don't fault them, but I think it should be, a part of everyone's process.
I know I've been seeing on social media people being like, yeah, I know whenever someone uses ChatGPT because they're using the M dashes or just like it speaks like a robot. But I mean,
I also use M dashes a lot though. So I was so annoyed when ChatGPT does that. Yeah.
I literally take them away because I'm like, people are going to think I haven't written this.
Totally.
That's so true. But I feel like it's good to use it, like say if you're doing a pitch or just like coming up with a good business idea. Even for myself, I'll put in like different prompts. I'm like, hey, I want, I don't know, these 10 things. I want to talk about these 10 things on my next podcast episode. What are some like smart things I could talk about? Or I don't know, just like tiny little things that can help me generate more ideas. And then I will go out and write things out. I feel like it has to be a good mixture of LLMs and then my own brain and my hands to the paper writing it down.
Absolutely. And I would go one step further, that I actually have folders in ChatGPT where I put my entire projects. So I will upload all, I mean, who knows, they might be taking some of my data, but I'll upload all of my, thoughts on a project and then ask it questions based on my what I've uploaded.
You need to try. It's called Google Notebook LM.
Yep.
Do you use it?
Yep.
That was my favorite thing ever. Like, seriously.
There's a lot of good tools out there now.
So you basically just chuck in a whole PDF, and then for my viewers who don't know.
You can do that on ChatGPT too with the paid version if you pay.
Okay, so if you pay. But
Yep.
also on Notebook LM, you can do that. But Notebook LM will actually make a podcast episode where it's just like 2 AI agents talking back and forth, explaining a concept to you. So for people who are very busy but want to learn something, I like to use that.
Absolutely.
What are ways you use ChatGPT or just anything to become a better CEO, become a better boss, a better leader?
I think any of those blind spots, right? So asking ChatGPT for any project emails, spreadsheets that go out, what would an executive have a question about? What would a finance person have a question about?
Oh, that's smart.
Areas that I feel uncertain, I'll always ask it because I think, historically people have tried to be really well-rounded when you get to an executive level. And I'm not really sure if that's the best use of time. So I try to fill in the gaps of what I know are historically places that I either don't look at or feel uncertain with and would normally reach out to other staff. I sort of kick down the LLM door first, and then I'll go to my staff too and fill in the blanks. But
smart.
Yeah. So I'm more like process oriented, I feel like with ChatGPT than like, hey, here, just write me an entire email. Although I've done that before. But certainly it's like an efficiency, productivity, and then uploading, whether it's even visuals, like, I'm giving this to traditional media. It's going to be seen by 1 million people. What are some issues with it?
Would that be like a press release or?
Could be anything.
Yeah.
I use it for pretty much everything that goes out now.
So smart. Yeah. So going back to being a leader, what do you think are some key points that make someone a successful leader?
I think everyone's different.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you can just like blanket, here's what a leader looks like. I mean, there's so much great work on leadership too. Certainly like lead by example. I think I see that with my kids is like they don't listen to what you tell them. They watch you, right? And they mirror what you're doing.
I know so with my nieces too. And I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't say that. Or
Yeah. So I think there's great parallels in being a parent and being a leader, being a coach as well. And that's where I think being in sports provides me with a bit of an advantage because you see the competitive edge and teams that you would think would do really well and why they don't, and teams that are well constructed and have a culture that wins and what that looks like. So I take a lot of feedback and I'm continuously refining what it means to be a leader. But I think understanding how you want to behave and the levers you need to pull to get to your end goal while still giving people the bandwidth to be human. So I'm not a big family person, but I am a big we're a team.
Oh, I love that. Teamwork makes the dream work.
Correct. Lego movie.
Lego movie. I haven't seen Lego movie yet.
It's good.
Okay.
Yeah, we're on a tech podcast, so there's going to be people out there that like Lego.
Exactly. No, I love Lego. Do your daughters love Lego?
Love Lego. My Lego collection is massive.
What do you have?
A lot.
All the botanicals and the flowers?
Correct.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I love it.
So I think it was actually in Louisville. So when we did that business pitch, the CMO of Lego came from Denmark to talk to us
what?
Almost 20 years ago.
He was at my Harvard class 2 weeks ago.
Oh my gosh.
Wait, maybe it's the same guy.
Could be. He was very passionate. He told us they were priming the builders of tomorrow.
That's exactly what he said
last
week.
Okay, there we go.
2 weeks ago at the executive education program.
How was it? Good.
It was awesome. Yeah. I learned so much.
HBS is nice.
Yeah. Okay, so continue. Sorry.
Well, I just think leadership is it's a flowing river, right? And to know at each scale and step, it's different. So we started as 3 people that had a dream, a hope, a vision. And then got to 20 people, then 50, and now we're over 200.
Wow.
So yeah, I think every aspect of scale, you sort of change in terms of your touch points and how you have to be and act as an individual. But I try to keep up this still startup-y vibe because I love that, nose to the grindstone. I love feeling like I have some pressure on me. I've learned a lot about myself of how I can perform at the highest level.
Right.
So I try to reconstruct some of those vibes, so to say, to get the best out of myself.
What would you say you are? A tech entrepreneur, sports, a little bit of both, or how would you really define it? Because I'm startup, but you have 200 employees now. So How would
All
you
of the
define what
above.
you're doing? Yeah.
All of the
All
above. And I think the best thing about my job, and even like I still sometimes model, I have a fashion agent.
Oh my gosh.
You
do it all.
Yeah. And I think you don't have to choose. I have a lot of women that come to me and are like, I want to start a family. And I don't know if you ever have like work-life balance, but I think you can have work-life harmony.
I like that.
So yeah, getting to that harmonious place where you can take from the well what you need and then also know how to delegate and scale and build. And I think men do it really well. So just emphasizing to women that, you can hire people and keep scaling and growing companies, I think is really important to seeing more women in business.
Are there maybe a few things you do every day that you make sure that you have that work-life harmony?
I'm a big person about writing lists.
Okay, me too.
Morning lists, checking them off. I like to feel like I've completed elements. And I'm also big into if you only have 5% that day and you've given 5%, you've given 100%.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I back off on myself too if I need an off day.
I feel like for me, sometimes I'll do my to-do list, and if I don't do 100% of it, I'm like, oh, I failed today.
Right.
But really, it's fine. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Because I still grinded.
Reset. Yeah.
Reset. Okay. We're gonna start writing lists. Do you do them like time blocking? Have you seen people do that
Totally.
online?
I have. I'm not as detailed. I'm a big picture person. So people that do like the really detailed schedules and such, I don't. But I know that about myself. So I need people around me to be more detailed.
You hire detailed people.
Correct.
I
Yes,
love that.
yes.
Now, I want to talk a bit about tech and the innovation in sports. So, with the rise of AI machine learning, it's definitely transforming how we understand sports performance. Can you talk a bit more about that?
I think it's transforming everything, but I will say, a lot of traditional AI has been around for a very long time. You look at like Jeffrey Hinton at U of T, who just won the physics Nobel Prize. I mean, I don't even know when he published that first paper, right? It's not something that's like new. I'd say like generative AI and the cost of doing some of these, ideas certainly have accelerated, and a lot of breakthroughs, including like a ChatGPT that's more mainstream, makes it more accessible and scalable. But I will say there's a lot of costs, and then engineers that typically are in that space are very expensive. So there's a big trade-off between like infrastructure and the projects you actually want to take on. So just collecting the data isn't good enough, right? It's translating, storing, and then being able to action it across the world, essentially. And so if you even have a really great app, can you have like 5 million people on it at the same time? Because 5 million people watch the Four Nations Cup for hockey. So,
Right.
You're going to need a volume of users. So I think, sports is in an interesting place where fandom and that human emotion is at an all-time high in terms of the NFL and the NBA, and even the NHL has had huge growth in terms of viewerships this year with some of those massive tournaments. Getting more people understanding sports and using tech to these sports franchises' advantage is absolutely on every executive's first thought, which is great for me. Because, 15 years ago when we were pitching, they were like, oh, do we really need data in sports? Or how will people use it? Or will it only be like super nerds? And now I'm like, you can now self-serve and understand that person is looking up Austin Matthews and following them. Why not have a curated experience? Why do they have to actually go through and Google? Why can't it just be presented to them? And, here's his jersey. And, he had a great game. Do you want to go to the game tomorrow night? There should be a lot more like personalization and a frictionless experience for a fan to follow a player, a team, players from different teams across the world. I mean, on your phone, we have everything now. So I think it all has to be like phone first, digital first, streamlined, impressive, interesting. And as you know, with social media, people have a very short attention span. So very grabbing.
Very grabbing.
Yeah.
Hit them with the stats.
Correct.
How would you say that sports analytics are changing scouting?
Just player identification is much easier at an earlier time. And then also like understanding player arcs too. So specific skill sets that translate at different levels, the value that they provide, whether it's for winning or just for like sustainability of a career. I think the number one thing for scouting is efficiencies. There's so many players, there's so many people in the world. And historically, they've been in pockets, right? So you think of like the GTA Toronto as having a lot of hockey players, or Minnesota, whereas now you can play hockey anywhere in the world and have your tape be analyzed and understood by scouts. We can tell speeds with computer vision. We can tell how fast they skate, their style of skating. There's so many areas that were largely misunderstood or were never seen. And now, software computers can see every game.
Are there any AI breakthroughs that surprised you or that excite you?
Yes. So I think, and not to harp on ChatGPT, but I was just at a conference, a women's hockey conference in Czechia. And there was a 70-year-old executive that was running a Swedish team, and he sparked up ChatGPT app on his phone. And I thought, okay, it's over. Like I've seen everything now.
Like in the middle of the conference?
Yeah, we were at like a lunch, and he was like asking it a question. And I'm like, that historically, I would, even to see an iPhone 10, 15 years ago, I would see Blackberries, and they're more on not the first mover curve, right? So to see the wide acceptance of not only analytics, but different ways and different processes to get work done and to understand, their roles and their jobs, I think that'll really revolutionize how efficient sport franchises can be, but also like how they can reach both their own team and their fans.
I'm also thinking as like, for myself, I grew up playing soccer, and I look back and I'm like, oh, I kind of wish that I had these like data that I could look at and learn from. Do you think like young generation of kids are really utilizing that? Or is that going to be like a trend in the future for kids, parents, and coaches at like the grassroots level?
It's already a trend. I mean, we first sort of started in hockey 18 years ago, getting paid by parents who really wanted to understand their 15-year-old child more, because there's big money. And now that NIL and Canadian hockey players can go to the college route, there's a lot of cross-pollination between money and college level kids. And so they see that outcome of money, and they want to invest more upfront. So data analytics, technology, using even like video. So we have a lot of video applications that I don't need to know how Austin Matthews played last night. I can already curate his top 10 scoring chances by best to worst. Yeah, there's certain like models that can drive, whether it's on the puck, off the puck, how players are moving, their efficiencies, any type of data sets that you want to curate. I can pull that from video. And I think that's like the secret sauce, is not just data. It's not just content or visuals. It's also marrying it with like the video.
Right. Where do you really see sports, analytics, and innovation going in the next like 5 to 10 years?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think more streamlined, more seamless between the fan, the arena, the game, trying to thread that needle to get more people involved. Because I think that's the major problem with sports, is you can only have so many people in an arena at once. And of course, teams want to make as much money as they can, but I also think it limits the scope of who you can reach. So usually using these digital mediums to really build fandom, to have people follow your favorite players. If people haven't seen Boston Bruins TikTok, I think they're like one of my favorites for just being like goofy and fun.
I love it. And it makes me like want to watch a game just because they're like so cool.
Exactly. So I think not being so serious in sports too is how you approach building up fandom. I think that's a huge advantage for anyone that can formulate what their team and the players that are on their team, what they want to do.
That's so true. I want to hear from Boston Bruins. Like, did that really hike up their viewership? Because it must have.
I would think so, because we're talking about it.
Like, their cool meter went up from me. So, like, it must have.
Agreed.
So, I don't know if you've tried the Apple Vision Pro yet.
No.
But they have some really cool experiences that immerse you into the world of sport. Maybe the next time we hang out, I'm going to bring that. But do you think this is going to change the way viewership, audience, ticket sales, just like sports in general?
Absolutely. So we already have, computer vision and tracking that we can recreate the game in like a gaming type engine. So you can actually stop the game. You can make it all animated, whatever you want the players to be, you can make them. And you can look behind the goal, up top. You can get any sort of view in this like digital world. So wearing those type of glasses, of course, just like escalates that commitment to being in this augmented reality. And I will say, going back to like that first mover, is like I've always been one that loves to test out what's there. So I went to Stanford, I don't know, 12 years ago, and with their VR setup and what they do for their football group. There was a group in Waterloo, I want to say 10 years ago, that made AR glasses. I think they've like gone bankrupt maybe 5 years ago because it's really expensive.
Yeah,
it's really
it was expensive.
But I tried that out too. They made me like custom glasses that
cool.
were, yeah. So I do think that there's like a gap there. I don't think that area is going to slow down. I just think it has to be within like a lifestyle of, scalability. Like first movers will always try. Yeah. It's like, how do you get that experience to make it so that, the 8-year-old wants to sit at center ice with glasses on.
Well, yeah, I know. I had my dad put on the Apple Vision Pros and he was like blown away because we like to watch soccer a lot and of course hockey. Maple Leafs fans forever.
There we go.
And when he put them on, it evoked so much emotion because we're sitting right behind the bench and like, who's buying those seats?
Correct.
Like as a regular
They're not even for sale. They're not for sale, everyone.
Right? Like they're highly expensive. So then having that ability as a fan to just sit there behind the glass, watch your favorite players, and then maybe one day with like live stats coming on.
Totally.
Or just
one day, hopefully soon.
Yeah, hopefully soon, coming on as we're watching. It would just be like incredible viewing experience for regular fans, but also for potential scouts. Just seeing it up close. You don't have to go to the other side of the country or across the world to watch your player.
And I would say like the cost is a huge element, and then also being near that arena. So everyone who could be a fan of an Austin Matthews, now you can get to Scotiabank Arena for every game, and you don't have to fly. You don't have to pay. Maybe there's like a subscription that it could actually drive revenue for the league, not be a deterrence. So I think tech will be for a lot of good in terms of bringing more people in, more demographics, younger people, and also that customization. So it would be nice to be able to skate with Austin Matthews beside him in that game, see what he's seeing,
Oh my gosh.
There's so many ways. Correct. There's so many ways you could recreate the game, especially with tracking data. And we already, at Stathletes, we already have that tracking data to make it happen.
Oh, okay. Yeah. We got it. But they just got implemented. Yeah, I'm like, okay.
Call me Apple Vision.
No, seriously. No, that's so cool. Because now that you've brought that up, I'm like, okay, if they just put the same cameras they have in the Vision Pro, but in like Marner's helmet, Matthew's helmet, I could see where he's looking at, where his eyes are when he's shooting the puck into the goal. Wow, that's going to change the game forever as we see it.
I think so. Yeah.
Wow.
But in an exciting way.
Yeah, for sure. Are there any other tech trends or just trends in sport that you see that are exciting as well?
I think just like the scale of tech amongst all of these new stadiums. I had tours of like the San Francisco 49ers stadium, and they have a whole like war room where they see all the data coming in real time from everything that's going on in the stadium.
That's what they call it, the war suite?
I don't know. I just made it up.
You made that up.
But it's not like a war room. It's like literally a full, something that I hadn't seen in a sports franchise. Yeah. So, but I think being more tech first, digital first, and that experience of, your fan is not just someone that sits in the seats, they're the whole journey. So how they consume the game at home, how they talk about it at work, aiding them to not only make them better fans, but more excited about that next match, more excited about that next game, about their player, to really evoke all the emotions that come with sports. I think tech and having it, whether it's on your iPhone or served up to you when you're on your work computer, all of that is integral in like continuing that journey, right, of a fan. Right. So I think anyone who's thinking of plugging in at certain moments that maybe you can make that feeling more or better or share that with others. As we know, it's sort of like the community aspect. You see even you look at soccer hooliganism 30, 40 years ago in England, and they would like fight doctors and lawyers that were like friends, but like one was a Liverpool fan and one was an Arsenal fan, right? Yeah. So thinking about that from like a psychological perspective of how do you create these groups of people who are so in love and so impassioned by their team and make that experience as best as possible for them.
Of course. What's some tech that you use on your everyday basis? Like what do you bring around and like, what do you kind of like sport with you?
I think that's a challenging question because, as I said, I'm a first mover. Like I had one of the first Apple iPhones. Like people thought I was crazy.
You're like first to the market kind of girl.
Yeah, I still had my BlackBerry too. I had like 3 phones at the time, but I definitely, I just like that friction. I like to try to figure stuff out. And then when the laggards finally come on, I'm like, I did that 20 years ago sort of thing. So I will try any tech innovation, and I'm constantly cycling through like what I have. I think found out my newest little non-tech obsession, but I have the Labubus, of course.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what your future obsession is.
Anything that's trendy.
She came in with a purse with like 5 Labubus on her Louis Vuitton purse.
They need a good home, but I like the idea of like pop culture and keeping up with the trends and seeing what works out in my life. And I think that's part of what really good, I don't know if it's CEOs, but like innovative people do, is like they're willing to kind of risk looking silly to try something new.
Risk looking silly to try something new. I really like that. And I saw you had like 3 phones with you today. What do we have here? iPhones?
Totally. Yeah. I just like to break up my life usually with, different elements. So I'll shoot content on one, I'll do work on another one. And then historically I've had one for family, but I've tried to like streamline a little bit more.
I feel like it was kind of hard for me to do that. I do have one work one for like personal, and then one that I'm testing out because I'm always testing out a new device.
Yeah.
So I'm like testing the Samsung S25 Edge right now. It's like thinnest phone ever that has like really amazing photo quality.
I love that.
And since I was just in Paris, I was taking a lot of photos around town.
Fancy.
So I do bring phones with me too. But when you pulled up with 3, I'm like, this girl is up to business. I love that.
Always up to business.
Do you think it makes you more productive?
I think so, because I think going back to that harmony aspect, it's like those silos are important, and I never want to drain one so much that I can't fill it back up. So thinking of friends, family, your career, and then your own passions and yourself as like a silo. And I think it was Sheryl Sandberg that said, like, you can't have everything at once. Like there's certain, seasons in your life. So for me, understanding what those seasons look like and what are most important to me, and constantly, going back and thinking how I can be better.
I love that. Since you already answered my final question, which was, what's your future session? And you said Labubus. my new final question for you is, what advice would you give your younger self?
That's a really tough one. Like, your authentic self is not only enough, it's actually what makes you successful. And I think for most people, they always shy away from who they really are, because it's like, it can be a bit jarring, right, to show yourself to the world.
Yeah.
But I think that's where the secret sauce comes in. So figure out who you are when you're alone, how you recharge, what really makes you happy. And the happiest version and best version of yourself will be the best in your career.
I love that. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast. Hearing your advice and entrepreneurial journey is inspiring for me and for all of my viewers. So thank you so much. What you're doing is incredible, and I can't wait to see what more you do in the future.
Oh, thank you.
Where can my audience find you?
Stathletes in general, so at Hockey Analytics on a lot of different social. I'm also on TV, usually SportsCenter, be on ESPN for the NHL draft in Los Angeles in a couple weeks, depending upon when this podcast comes out, end of June.
Oh, we're posting it next week.
There we go. So June 28th in Los Angeles, and on all social channels at Meghan Chayka.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. As always, I'll see you next week. Bye.